Hello, hello. Good evening again. We started in the afternoon and now we're on to the evening. And sorry, I wasn't exactly on at 6:30. I had to post a couple things and then I had to take a quick little peruse through the Labor Day sale. Because the Labor Day sale started at 5 o'clock and I just had to take a little sneaky peek to see what was in the sale. There's a bunch of good stuff in there. And so hopefully there will be some good stuff left when I get a chance to pop on and put an order in. But yes, had to take a look. Good evening, Michelle. We are going to be making a card, and I'm using inspiration from the catalog for this. And so we just finished looking through this beautiful September-October catalog, doing our walkthrough. So if you haven't had a chance to take a look at that, the video is saved and you can take a stroll along with us through the catalog. And if you are watching live, just say hello or howdy so I know you're here. And if you're watching later on replay, you can just say replay. So Michelle is here and Joanne. Hey, Joanne, nice to see you're watching. And so we're going to flip all the way to the back of the catalog. Hey, Heather, nice to see you're watching. And we're going to go here to these alphabet stamps. And we're going to be creating this card from page 48 with a little bit of a twist. And you'll find out what that twist is when we get to it. Just because I wanted it to be a little bit different. It's not a lot different. It's just a little bit different because one thing that's used on it is a sticker from the sticker sheet. And not only is it a sticker from the sticker sheet from Home for Christmas, they actually cut the sticker, which I'm not adverse to. I have done that myself, but I thought if I use a stamp, then it's a little bit easier for everybody to kind of recreate, because you might want that sticker for something else. You just never know. So we're going to start with our white card base. So I've just got my standard size card base, 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and it's already comes scored. So all I have to do is fold it. And this is actually a really nice, simple layout of a card to create, because if you're making a large number of cards, this particular card, why I picked it, like for thinking about people who are going to be making their Christmas cards, this is just strips of paper done in a nice arrangement, but you can get a lot of cards out of a couple sheets of paper when all you're using are just strips, right? So the first strip that we have is a piece of this grid from the Mix In paper collection. And this grid is 4 1/4 by 1 inch. And so we're going to just go ahead, grab some adhesive. That would be useful. The back side is the pretty pine, which we're also going to be using on this card. So never fear, that's going to come back. We've got our adhesive on there. And we're going to line this up about 1.5 inches from the top of the card. So I'm going to find a grid line on my Versamat, making sure that my fold is on the left side. And we're going to come down 1.5 inches from the top and just stick our piece on there. Oops, that's really crooked. I was going to 1 3/4 inches on that side. Woohoo! Just wandering all over the place. And the other thing is we're not layering up a lot of cardstock to start out with. Sometimes we start with, a layer and a layer, and it takes a lot of paper. This is just a 1-inch strip of pattern paper, which is awesome. Then we have 2 strips of, these are both pine, which is nice. They're different patterns, but they're both the same color. And so we have this one from the Home for Christmas collection and this one from the Mix In collection. You can see here on the back side that this is the same piece as the grid, and this has the black script on the back. And these are 1 inch by 4 1/4, so the exact same size as this, which means this and this were cut out of the same 1 inch strip. Awesome. And if you wanted to get even more cards made, these are both 4 1/4 inches. You could, when this card is put together, you could have actually used 2 pieces of it. You don't have to have anything through this center part, so you can even conserve more paper that way. I'm not doing that. But we're going to dovetail these. So we're going to make a little snip just in the center, and then we're going to come in from the side to the top of our snip, and then from this side to the top of our snip to create that lovely dovetail. And since these are the same size, I'm actually going to, well, they're pretty close. One's a little bit bigger. Look at that. They're supposed to be 1 inch, but, you know, whatever. And I'm going to just use that as a guide to make my snip so that our 2 cards are very similarly dovetailed, since they're the same size. If they were different sizes, I wouldn't bother with that. Now, if I can find all the little bits. There we go. And now we can go ahead and add some adhesive to this. The other thing is that for most of this, we're not even using foam tape. We're just doing it nice and flat, which saves us on some postage. So we're saving paper, we're saving postage. This is a great pattern. That's why I picked it out of the catalog. Okay, so for these strips, I want to go about 3/4 of an inch in from the edge. So 3/4 of an inch in, and try to line it up straight-ish like that. And then we'll do the same thing on the other side. So what did you think of those paper collections? That was one of the questions I asked when I was doing posting before I came on, was which is your favorite? Do you have a favorite? We're going to come 3/4 of an inch in on this side as well. So let's line it up. We'll come 3/4 of an inch in using our Versa mat to help us measure. Helps if we put it straight, sort of straight. There we go. So Home for Christmas and The Good Life were the 2 in the book. Do you have a favorite? Hey Robin, nice to see you're watching. Michelle's loving them both. And we're going to dovetail this. Oh, I should tell you, this is the plaid, and this is from the Home for Christmas collection, and it has been cut to 1.5 inches by 5 1/4. So it's a little bit wider and a little bit longer, and that kind of, you know, breaks up the sameness that's happening here. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to dovetail it so that it does have a similarity. Snip in the center, then come in from the left side, come in from the right side. Really doesn't matter which side you come in from first, but I always do left side, right side. And then we can go ahead and add some adhesive to this. Look at that beautiful wood grain on the back side. I really wish the really lovely plaid and the really lovely wood grain were not competing for sides. It's always a quandary, right? I love them both. Which one am I going to use? Yep. And then we're going to just tuck this down the center. Michelle is saying The Good Life is her favorite. Yep. All right, so we've got 4 1/4, and so half of 4 1/4 is 2 1/8. So that's right there. So let's see if I just kind of center this over those 2. I will hopefully get in the middle, somewhere in the middle, like that. Looks pretty good. There we go. And then we're going to layer up some cardstock. So far we haven't layered any cardstock, but our next step is to add 2 pieces of cardstock. We've got some candy apple and the candy apple is 3 inches by 2.5. And then the white is 2 3/4 by 2 1/4. So I'm going to do some stamping on this. So let me just move that out of the way. I'll leave this, and I need to stamp my letters from the alphabet. Now, if you remember from earlier, I said I was teaching a class at convention, and so the alphabet was actually one of the stamps that I got from convention. But because it was a prototype, it doesn't have a proper envelope. It doesn't have label. It's got nothing. It's a plain carrier sheet with stamps. So it looks a little different from what you will get because it's a prototype. So we've got our J, our little stocking, and then we've got our O, our nice little wreath, peeling those carefully off the carrier sheet. And then our Y with the little points, well, not a poinsettia, but a little star in the center. There we go. And now I hopefully have enough room to fit it on there. You know, that would be a good thing if it fit on there. For some reason, mine looks a little smaller than the example, but we're going to get it on there one way or another. And it's on a little bit of an angle. J-O-Y. When I was in Sunday school, there was a little song that we sang about joy. J-O-Y, J-O-Y. This is what it means. So whenever I spell out the word joy, J-O-Y, that song pops into my head. And it's always hard to line up stamps because the stamps are sticky. They're on a little bit of a curve. That's how they are in the example, on a nice little curve. And I probably could have been a little bit more generous with my size of my, with the size of my thing, but it looks pretty much like what's in there. So, you know, I did my little ruler trick. We're going to season these stamps, and we're going to stamp it with some intense black ink. Let me just grab that. And cross our fingers that we have enough room to get them all stamped on there. Actually, if I stamp them individually, they would get a little closer because I don't have to worry about the space needed. I'm going to bring this a little bit closer to me so I can see what I'm doing. Get it lined up. J-O-Y. Now I want to sing Jingle Bells. Does anybody else start thinking about Christmas carols when they do Christmassy stuff? There's our little joy stamped up there. We'll wash that off later because I didn't get my stamp chamois wet. And then we're going to need to do some coloring, but before we do the coloring, I want to do a little bit of stamping. So this particular peace and, it says peace and joy. Let me lift it up so you can see. It says peace and joy. The peace and, it took me a long time to find it. It's from the sticker sheet. And so on the sticker sheet, there is a sticker right here that's like a folder, and it says peace and joy on it. So they fussy cut around the peace and then use that on the card. But I wanted to keep that sticker in case I want it for a layout. So I decided to use some mink cardstock because that's what's in the background. And then I'm going to bring in the... This is another one that just looks a little bit sketchy because, again, it's a prototype. The Pawliday one. And I'm going to use the word Christmas from the Merry Christmas sentiment. And so I'm going to stamp Christmas. So we're going to have Christmas joy. But I want to do it as heat embossing because this is white on mink. So we're going to do some heat embossing. So I've got my Versamark and I've got my white heat embossing powder. And I need a piece of scrap paper. Ta-da! And I've got my stamp, I've got that, and I need my anti-static pouch. And this is a brand new one. Look at that, brand spanking new, bright and white. And we're just going to go ahead and use that on the cardstock. That removes any static on there that might have gathered, so that the little pieces of embossing powder, which are basically plastic dust, don't stick to all the places where we don't want it to stick. So we're going to stamp up our little Christmas with our Versamark ink. And I'm going to stamp it kind of down at the bottom because I'm going to do some trimming after. So there we go. And you can't see it because it's Versamark and it's clear. And then we're going to add our white embossing powder on there. Tap, tap, tap. And then we can use our scrap paper as a funnel to put all the excess back in our jar to save for the next project. There we are. And we always inevitably get some everywhere. Let me grab my heat tool. Already plugged in. We're going to warm it up. And we are going to heat emboss. I like to hold my paper up well off my work surface, usually 5 or 6 inches, so that the heat from the heat tool doesn't damage my work surface or my Versamat or anything like that. And it also lets that heat swirl around the paper, heating up the embossing powder a little bit quicker. And then we're just going to work our way across, and it's going to go from dry and powdery to shiny and white in just a couple seconds. There we go. Merry Christmassy. So we've got our Christmas joy. Now, while that's sitting just cooling for half a second, because we just got it all hot and bothered, we're going to do some coloring on here. And I have my dark red blend of my tri-blend marker. And I'm going to just color up the Christmas stocking. I'm not going to do any too fancy kind of coloring on here. They didn't, so I'm not going to. Just going to add that red on there. We're going to leave the white toe and heel and the white along the floofy part at the top of the stocking, just like that. And then we're going to come over here to the wreath. We're going to color the same color all the way across. So we're going to add a little bit of this lightest dark red on all the little berries, like so. They're just little, so you just barely have to touch them on there. All the way around. Looking pretty already. Does anybody get excited for Christmas? I know some people love all the preparations for Christmas. Other people dread it. I'm kind of one of those that I get a little bit excited. It probably makes a difference that I have kids in the house, you know, so they get a little excited. Not as excited maybe as they did when they were little. Now that they're 21 tomorrow, Justin's birthday, and 19 and 13. So some of the, you know, excitement has waned, but they're always still enjoying the holidays. So there we go, using that dark red. And then we're going to use the dull green to color around the wreath. And I just want to check, do I want the light or, let me see, I need a scrap of, I always like to check my color on white cardstock. I'm pretty sure I want the mid. Yes, I want the mid color, and this is the dull green blend, pretty much my favorite green. And we're just going to add some color along the pine. And you know what? It's just line drawn. So we're just kind of filling in as much or as little green as you want, right? You're just kind of going where the lines are and adding some green. So if you want it to look more full, you can add a little extra. And if you want it to look sparse, you can add a little less. It's totally your call. because we're not coloring in anything. We're just kind of drawing on over top of the lines. So we're just going to do that all the way around. I kind of like a full-ish wreath. So I'm going to color on all the lines and maybe in a few spots where there aren't lines, just to fill it in. That's the great thing about creating things yourself, is you can totally pick how you want to do it. You could even decide, I don't want a green wreath, I'm going to make a silver wreath, and you can totally do that too. And then I'm going to come in with the True Blue and the lightest of the True Blue, and we're going to add a little bit of kind of color onto these white bits, just to make it look a little bit icy and chill, just kind of around here like this, and maybe three-dimensional perhaps. There we go. And let's also add a little bit on this stocking, just a little shadowy shadow. There we go. Joy. So cute. Then I also want to bring in my little trimmer. We need to trim down our Christmas. So let's lop a little bit off here and lop a little bit off there. And I find sometimes it's easier to do this trimming after you've done the stamping, rather than trying to line up the stamp. I'm the same with the die cuts. I like to stamp first and then die cut. It just seems to work better for me. Now, the one that's on here has a little bit of a dovetail, so we can do that too. Let's add, actually, maybe I'll even make it a little bit more svelte. Take off an inch or two. Wouldn't it be nice if it was easy for us to take off an inch or two? Whew. And I'm just thinking I might actually have mine come from the edge of my card. So I'm going to trim a little bit extra off there. And grab my adhesive. So even though you're kind of following what's in the catalog, you can totally jazz things up to your heart's content, right? You can use different colors. You can use different things, like I used a stamp and heat embossing rather than the sticker. Totally your call on that. And then we're going to add some adhesive on the back of this and layer it up with the candy apple. Candy apple sounds so delicious. Now I want to eat a sweet treat. And then we're going to layer that on there like so. And when we attach it to here, why don't we, get a little bit carried away with ourselves and add some foam tape. We've done everything so austerely on here to begin with. So let's live a little, add a little dimension. It looks like they did that in the catalog too. So let's follow suit. Add a little bit of foam tape and pop it up. And that's the only dimension we've added. So if you really don't like dimension, then don't add it. And if you do, then add it. And taking all the backings off, all the little sticky backings. Hey, Katie, nice to see you're watching. And Deborah's here too. Hello, Deborah. And then we're going to line this up. We're going to have it kind of centered across and a little bit above the grid and a lot more below the grid, like that. And then one last touch, and it's a good thing it's only one last touch, because I have this package of silver glitter gems that has been kicking around in my embellishment. And look, there is one glitter gem, and I only need one for this card. Usually you do things in groups of 3s, but on this particular card, there is just one glitter gem, and it's in the center of the star. And actually, this is a little bit big. It's probably a smaller one, but that's what I've got. So that's what it's going to get. And so there we go. That is our completed card following what was on page 48 in the catalog, using that mix-in papers for the grid and for this piece of pine here. Then we've got two different patterns, the green and the plaid, from the Home for Christmas collection, paired up with some candy apple and white daisy stamping, using the Christmas alphabet stamp set, and we kind of swipe that Christmas out of the Pawliday Express stamp set to take the place of the sticker that was used here. So I hope you guys enjoyed seeing that come together with a little bit of coloring and a little bit of bling, because every card needs a little bit of bling. And I hope that you are inspired to do some creating with these papers as well. Now, I will be back on to do some more crafting at 7:15. So in about 12 minutes, I will be back. All right, we'll see you then soon. Toodaloo. Bye.